Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. Now, if this is your first time listening to the show, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. And if you're a returning listener, tell us what you like about the show. Leave us an honest rating and review. We'd love to hear from you, what you like, and anything that could work harder for your investing goals. We got a great one today. We're bringing back a guest, Mr. Maurice Philogene. Maurice Philogene is a real estate investor, entrepreneur, restaurant owner, explorer of 100 countries, public servant, philanthropist, and a lifestyle design and wealth coach. Now, he's a founding managing partner of Quattro Capital with a passion for living life, leveraging freedom principles, financial freedom, time freedom, geographic freedom, freedom of purpose, and freedom of relationships. Let's welcome to the show, Maurice Philogene.
Hello, kind sir. How are you?
Maurice, I am doing great, man. It's great to get you back on the show. We'll make sure we link to your previous appearance. But for those listeners who did not check out that previous episode, give us maybe the 1 or 2 minute background on who you are and what you do.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll start at kind of the end. I like doing that, right? I'm 47. I'm out of the W-2 world. Born in New York, raised in Boston, live in Washington, D.C. by way of University of Virginia. Real estate has always been there, which is important for your listeners. But real estate came into my life at age 21, not because of real estate, but because I recognized that it could give me some level of freedom. I recognized that early. So just like many of your listeners as well, I was 25 years corporate, I'm retired now, 22 years as a military officer, lieutenant colonel, and federal agent. I was in law enforcement through the military. I'm retired now. And then I was a street cop in the DC area for 13 years at the same time. I did an early retirement there. So I punched out of everything in 2021. And more importantly, for the show, I'm a founding partner of Quattro Capital. I did do single family real estate through 2015 when I earned my financial freedom by buying a lot of single family residences. But when you do have a certain level of financial ability, you start to realize that life is not about money. I needed a challenge. The challenge was multifamily real estate. And we've been rocking and rolling. I did a few deals on my own between 2016 and 18, met my partners in 18. We have done, we just closed our 26th complex in just under 3 years last week or 2 weeks ago. So that's Quattro Capital. And I have 4 other amazing partners. We came together and it's been going ever since.
I love it, man. And the great thing is, like, when we had you on last time, all those jobs and roles you talked about, you were still in. So you talked about being in corporate America, being, military, working as a street cop and investing. You're doing all those things while finding a lot of time to travel the world, which was amazing to me. And that concept of kind of lifestyle by design and how you're able to create all this time, even though you had these various roles and jobs and responsibilities, and you're a father. We didn't really get into that, but you're, a dad as well. So I understand what it's like being a busy dad. So a lot of hats you're wearing. Sounds like you have since kind of hung up many of those hats. And now you're really focused on those important roles, being a dad, as well as helping other investors through Quattro Capital. You mentioned that you came together with these 4 partners. You've done 26 deals together at this point. Let's just start talking about partnerships, because I think partnerships are really vital to being a successful investor, because no one does this by themselves. Everyone has at least a team member, even if it's a property manager or whoever, right? Everyone has someone, at least one other person that they work with. Talk to me about that partnership. How did you come together? What did you see in them that made you say, you know what, these would be great partners? And were there any red flags or issues that you all had to overcome early on?
Well, you referenced those freedom principles at the beginning. One of them is freedom to build meaningful relationships. We need time to do that, right? Like, you were one of the very early people that I had a podcast interview with. I learned a lot from that process. You've always been on my mind since then. So I've had this relationship with you where I can reach out and ask questions if I needed to. 2002 to 2015, I was doing single family on my own through all those jobs and careers, but I was doing it all solo. And I've posted about it on LinkedIn and other social media. I've said that during that time frame, because I felt very different than my peers. Like when I would tell the fellas, look, I got to go paint this on the weekend or change this toilet or fix this toilet or whatever, or do something related to real estate or being a street cop or whatever. I was just always busy. So I was very accustomed to being on my own. And when I got to 35 single family homes, and then I ended up with 18 paid off single family home in 2015, it was enough. Like I was like, no, I'm doing well. But here's what happened. And here's in the answer to your question of how did you meet your friends? I needed a new challenge. I started going to real estate conferences, just self-education. I was still on the self-education racket, right? In 2018, I was at a conference in Boston. My now partner, Erin, was on stage talking about her charity in Nicaragua. I stood up, donated $5,000, and that opened the floodgates to like 7 or 8 other people donating $5,000. So she raised $55,000 in a matter of 15 minutes. We stayed friends as a result. She called me in mid 2019 and said, hey, Maurice, we had talked, back and forth. She said, I have a real estate deal and I know you can sponsor it. I had some net worth because of all the single family and I was doing restaurants and, a few other things. John, to be honest, I didn't want a partner because I was so used to doing business on my own and not having external factors. But I took a leap of faith. And what that has led to is myself, Aaron, Chad, Kim, and Tammy joined a little bit later. We closed our first deal in January of 2020, a $3 million, 36 unit place. We still have it. Tammy joined like 4 or 5 months later because we recognized a gap in the business. And the beautiful thing that happened is all of our life ideals were the same. Integrity, lifestyle design, the business should work for us, not against us. So we've stayed together. We've become this family that operates as a business. I love them people as if they're my blood relatives. And as a result, we are just a bit of a machine. And then we invested in ourselves. We hired a business coach. We worked on the business, not just in the business. Everyone thinks syndication is about just closing deals. No. Systems, processes, the right people, aces in their places. We invested in that whole process, and that's how we've been able to do so many deals along the way, while the most important thing, keeping lifestyle the way that I want it. Free, mobility, movement, automated. I can get up right now from my desk. I was in Cyprus 2 days ago. I'm in Washington, D.C. today. I'll be in Houston on Friday. I'll be in Vegas on Saturday. I'll be back in Cyprus on Monday. But I can run Quattro, my portion of Quattro, from wherever I am. So that's how it all came together. And that's why I'm stressing that relationships are actually the key to everything, because they collapse your time to achieve a goal down significantly because other people can do for you what you can't do for yourself.
I love it, man. The great insights there. And I love the fact that you talked about kind of the organic evolution of the relationship, right? Mm-hmm. You heard your partner, Aaron, on stage talking about a nonprofit. You stood up, made a donation that opened the floodgates, and really built a strong relationship. She ended up reaching out to you, asking to partner on a deal. You were hesitant, but you took that leap of faith. And I think that's a really keen insight right there, because a lot of times, in life, we're faced with that fork in the road where, maybe the comfortable thing is to do nothing or to not take action, right? Let's not invest. Let's not partner with this person. Let's not do anything, because I have if I don't do anything, I'll stay where I'm at.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem is, if you don't do anything, you'll stay where you're at. You don't get to grow. You don't get to push it. You don't get to learn. You don't get to expand. And you did that. And the reason I want to point that out is I think oftentimes we listen to podcasts, we hear conversations like this, and people chalk it up to either luck or being in the right place at the right time or whatever it is. And we don't really isolate that thing that was different. And there's two. I started with the second one, but the first one was the fact that you stood up and donated $5,000. Now, I don't know if Aaron asked for donations or if you just heard the story and said, I want to contribute, but you took action there. And by taking that part of massive action, that opened the door to build this relationship. And, down the road, she reached back out to say, hey, would you be interested in working together? You said yes a second time. And here you are 26 deals later, with this company that you all have built together. And I just think that's really important for people to understand is that you have to put yourself in a position to be successful. You have to take action. You have to do things that are maybe a bit uncomfortable. I mean, $5,000 is still $5,000. So I'm sure there are other things you could have done with that $5,000, but you felt that, donating that was the right thing to do. Yeah. And it's just really important for people to understand, because when you go to these events and these conferences, you're there to network. You're there to build relationships. So make sure you're doing that thing. Don't just shake a couple hands and exchange some business cards. Figure out who you might be able to build a deep relationship and go a little bit deeper with. And don't go into it with expectations. But on the same note, take advantage of your time with those people to forge those bonds and see where they develop and go from there. So I think it's just really great insight of kind of, how small actions lead to huge results. And that's what you and your team at Quattro have been able to do.
We have, and I want to highlight one more thing, because I know you have future and current syndicators who are out there. Start with the premise that it ain't about you. It's not. It's not like if the moment people come to me for sponsoring deals or something like that, and everything is about money, I won't partner with them, because everything is not about money to me. The reason why I donated that money that day, and I don't like talking philanthropy stuff, but the reason I donated money that day is because I have a purpose, and that's one of those freedom principles. And one of my purposes is to impact a lot of people, such that the day that I punch from this planet, there are a lot of people bothered that I'm gone. That's my purpose. She was doing amazing stuff for people in a foreign country. And you know how I am about travel and immersing in culture. And that resonated with me. So that was something for me to do. I didn't expect or need anything in return from that. But the funny thing is, the more good you put out into this world, the more comes back to you. I want to just throw that out there. You can call it law of attraction, God, spirit, luck, whatever you want to call it. The more you do good, the more good comes back to you. And it's just the way it works.
It's a mindset too, though, Maurice. I mean, but to your point, it's a mindset, because you're doing good without the expectation of anything back.
Yeah.
But you also have the ability to take advantage of opportunities because you see what could be possible, right?
Right.
I mean, we go back to that fork in the road. When she calls and says, hey, I've got this deal, would you be interested in sponsoring it? You could take the angle to say, well, here's all the things that could go bad. So no, I don't want to do it. It's risky.
Right.
You took the angle to say, well, here are the things that could go well. Yeah. And yes, I recognize there's some risk involved. And if those risks happen, will I be okay? Can I survive? Will I recover? But if it goes well, that upside is really good. And I think that positive mindset, that optimism, that allows you to see the glass half full. And I do think that's a big difference on the people who are successful in this space and the people who struggle to see any traction, because you can look at the same opportunity and one personally sees all the challenges and all the issues, while someone else may see the upside, the potential, and what could be. And that mindset is so, so important.
And everything is goal-based. Selfishly, that partnership has helped me more than my partners can ever understand. Because that 2002 to 2016 period, I said it was a little bit of entrepreneurial depression. I was constantly doing things on my own. You know my story, right? I just never had time. So I was always by myself, always. And now I have these 4 amazing people, and we built this massive thing. And now we take a portion of revenues and do amazing things around the world with it. I partnered because it met a particular goal for me, which was to not do business on my own once I found the right people. It wasn't a money thing. And then I want to highlight one more thing, because I think it's important. I said the thing about you called it out, but I want to emphasize the thing about relationships. Relationships, if it's the right one and you invest in that relationship, has the ability to collapse the time frame for a goal down significantly. Significantly. As my dog says.
Dogs understand it too.
I have the exact same premise. For example, you know this, I wanted to live a life between the US and the Mediterranean. I didn't want to be the American guy who would just show up and eat at the restaurant and disappear. That was not my thing. My filter was open to any possibility of anyone doing anything in that region of the world. And lo and behold, someone I graduated college with, her husband was Cypriot. He was a real estate developer on the island. I immediately called him, invested in that relationship. We became amazing friends. It was a year and a half ago. So within a year and a half, I've been now to Cyprus, I don't know, 8 times. I'm on my 3rd real estate development project there. His goal in the whole thing was having someone who understood his bi-country lifestyle. I wanted a similar lifestyle. So we pooled our resources together to do amazing things. And here I am, in my opinion, accomplishing something that it takes people lifetimes to do. And I did it in a year and a half. Yeah, but I didn't do it. That relationship did it. And I invested in that. Anyway, so I just wanted to call that out because your listeners are trying to be syndicators, but many of them are probably thinking about themselves. I can do it on my own. I can do this. I can do that. A lot of it comes from meaningful relationships.
I think that goes true to the other side of that table as well, right? We have passive investors and syndicators raising capital. And I think for many passive investors, that may be part of the issue. One, you may not consider yourself a passive investor starting out, right? You're somebody who believes in real estate and you're trying to scale your portfolio. I think that's where most people start out. The how you do that, though, is really important. And passive investing is a great avenue to do that because we talked about that time freedom. We talked about having more flexibility to do the things you love with the people you love, as opposed to wearing so many different hats and spending your nights and weekends at the properties and checking on all these things. And I do think it's important to be able to free up your time so you can invest in the right relationships. And that is the key component of it, right? It's investing in the right relationships. Talk to us about that from an LP standpoint. How are you and Quattro developing these relationships with potential LPs so that they feel comfortable investing in you and the deals and the offerings that you're bringing to the table?
So that's what I do. That's where I spend 95% of my time for Quattros with investors, potential partners. People have goals. Syndicators are making a mistake if you think that you are taking someone's money to invest. That's not what's happening. What you're doing is you're giving that person an opportunity, but what they're providing is trust in you and all the life energy they put into making 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. Do you know how much work it takes to create $100,000? I mean, you do. I know you do. It is significant. So when I spend time with investors, I rarely even talk about money. We talk about life. We talk about goals, what they're trying to accomplish. Does this deal make sense for that particular goal for their kids or for themselves or for their lifestyle or what have you? And we tend to facilitate meaningful connections with each other, getting down to the real nitty gritty of what life is and how these types of investments that you and I do can help them. Just building relationships and listening to what's important. If a deal doesn't make sense for an investor, I don't want them there. They should not be a part of it. If they cannot afford for that money to be locked up for 5 years, they should not be a part of it, right? The other thing I do with Quattro, I have a very strong fundamental that I don't want anyone in between me and investors. I want investors as close to their money as possible, meaning Elon Musk ain't taking my phone call, even though I sent him a lot of money to buy Tesla stock. Every time I call him, he don't pick up the phone. Ever. But when it comes to Quattro investors, every single one of them has my cell phone and they know it's available 24 hours a day by text or voice text or whenever I get back to you. They can reach out, call, chat. What's up with this distribution? Hey, how you feeling about this? When's the next deal? My kid has this. Do you think the deal will be ready to sell by the time? I love it. I love every single aspect of being part of someone's life journey and creating some kind of asset that will push it. It is a joy. Matter of fact, John, it's a joy and a passion. Remember, I told you what my purpose is, to impact people's lives, right? That's how I build relationships with investors. That's how LPs can have access to what's happening with their money. You can be limited, but you can still have input into the process and what's going on just by having the ear of the operator. I understand you and I might get a little bit bigger, so it might be a little bit tougher the more investors we have. But if someone is taking the time to give you that amount of life energy to put into something, you can take the time to be available for them at any time.
I love how you set this up because there is a huge difference in raising capital and building relationships.
Totally.
And you are focusing on building relationships with people, understanding their financial goals, and deciding whether or not investing in your deals can help them accomplish those goals. Right. And I think a lot of people focus so much on their own goals that they don't even think about what that other person is trying to accomplish. So you come across as selling, right? You're trying to sell your deal, sell yourself in. Here's why multifamily is great. And here's why you should love this market. And here's why you should love this deal. And you have no idea if this person is even suited to invest in multifamily, if they care about real estate. Do they even understand the tax benefits? Do they need the tax benefits? So there's a whole process that needs to happen. I think a lot of people could use a bit more, not just education, but they also need to do some self-reflection on their own purpose. If your goal is just to raise money for your deals, you're not really building a business. You're trying to get some money to buy a piece of property versus, in the syndication space. I mean, we're building a real business. We're trying to serve people. You're building a service-based business. And that means you have to focus on the service that you provide, not just, trying to get people to write a check. And that attitude and that shift in the mindset, it's hard for some people starting out. But if you can process that and you're doing this for the right reasons, which are helping other people achieve their financial goals, you're going to make money in the process. You're going to do well, but you've got to focus on serving other people first.
And you have to, don't get me wrong, we have to perform. Like we've exited 5 deals and they've all done north of 35% average annual. So we have a track record that says we will perform, but everything is about relationships. Imagine if you're trying to get someone to invest in a deal in, let's say, Indiana, but that person had a car accident in Indiana and they don't like the state. But you don't take the time to know anything about that person's life. And you're just trying to, it doesn't compute. Now, I know the large operators who have, 5,000, 10,000 investors, they can't always do that. I do get that, but that's the point. I don't want to be that way. I want to always be able to touch my investors, for them to always reach out to me. A lot of them see me on social media. So, dude, you're in Cyprus. So they'll call, or they'll see me traveling to Turkey or something. We'll have a conversation. I'm on my way to Houston on Friday. I'll see a couple investors down there. I just told them, yo, I'm going to be in town. Come. I've never met them, but they're real people, So that, that's the one cherry on top that I want to add is, when you do build your syndication business, build your business blueprint such that it matches your personal blueprint. I built Quattro so I can live the way I want to live. I'm not building Quattro to compete with operators who have 10,000. I don't care. I'm not interested. What I'm interested is helping a lot of people and also living my life my way. And in a lot of respects, building relationships with people has done that. So I think that that's a really, really important topic for you folks.
Maurice, the market has shifted a little bit here over the last 3 to 6 months, and investor sentiment has changed as well. Talk to us about some of the challenges there, some of the conversations you're having, and some of the, I guess, changes that you and the Quattro team have had to make to adjust for that change in sentiment from investors.
I'll walk you through it. I mean, we just closed I was mentioning to you, we just closed a 22 million, 210 unit complex in Houston. Wonderful. The market's great. There's job growth. There's an additional 75,000 jobs coming into the market. Average rents have gone up. It's wonderful from a metrics perspective. But what has happened with the financial environment and the real world environment of inflation, and people worried about, spending $500 a week on gas is not cool. So people's scarcity mindset naturally kicks in, and I get it. And it is nerve-wracking for people to think about investing $25K, $50K, $100K into something when they're having to pay 10 times the amount of money for gas and food on a day-to-day basis. But that's the point. These things do come up, and you do want to have assets on your chessboard such that you can have you can have options to make life-related decisions in the future. So it goes back to building those relationships and having certain level of trust factor such that people understand, we're kind of in this weird cycle. Hey, Maurice, have you been through it? Yeah, I went through the 2008 cycle and survived it. I understand what is happening now. We put together, on a more business level, we put together a webinar investing in uncertain times. The moment we started to realize how people's mindsets were starting to shift, we put it together. Because now is the time you actually want to lean in. Where other people are going on the sideline, that means there's a lot of opportunity. It is hard as an operator. I mentioned to you, we had 2 or 3 lenders pull out because the Fed raised rates and lending was starting to freeze. And that does happen. But once you find the right opportunity in these higher inflation interest rate environments, our seller had to reduce the price. So we had an opportunity, like it was even better, right? So helping people get to that mindset, helping people get to the understanding so they can make the best decision for them. That's my job, myself and Aaron as equity relations or client relations. It's all about them making educated decisions. But once I can educate people, generally they come along. I've had 1 or 2 people just like, I just kind of want to wait. I understand that. And that's okay, because I don't want people to come in if they're not ready for what's happening. But yeah, there's definitely been a shift in this environment. But once you can get people educated on this happens every 5 to 8 years or so, it's normal. Here's what it is. The Fed only has 2 levers, right? They can raise interest rates, increase the money supply. That's it. That's all they've got. And because that's all they've got, it makes things very topsy-turvy. And of course, most people are getting their information from news outlets like CNN and Fox, and everything's always on fire. And oh my God, the sky is falling. No, it's not. This has been going on since 1892. Every 5 to 8 years, more like 8 to 10 years, there's something happening in a cycle. You just have to understand it. And we take the time to educate our investors on it.
For that listener who is a little concerned on the current economic climate, what would you say to them to help them understand how they can better position themselves and their finances for the future?
It's really, well, I don't want to go technical, but there's macroeconomics and there's microeconomics. But what I want the listener to understand is these cycles happen consistently. It is a matter, just like the rhythm of your life, there is a rhythm of the market. It goes up and down and generally goes up over time because that's just the way life works. Once people can understand that we go through cycles, that real estate has phases, once they understand it and absorb it and truly get it, I think people start to calm down. The problem is there's so much misinformation and a glut of digital information. People don't even know where to turn anymore. It's just so much information is out there. But I just go to the basics of, look, man, since 1910, we've seen this over and over and over. And here's how we turn this particular thing into an opportunity. Here's how, and all investing is like a ship on the sea. When the wind starts to get crazy, you just tack the sails a little bit and you're right back on course, right? And that's what good operators can do. They know that, look, in a high inflation environment, we're going to adjust this way. We're going to adjust the business plan this way just a bit so we can buy goods in bulk or what have you. And then we can keep our costs down. We can still get the returns that we want. It's just a matter of people understanding that. But it does take time, and I'm sensitive to it. So if someone needs to spend an hour with me, I spend an hour with them to figure it out.
Yeah, I think one other component to kind of the current climate is understanding how multifamily as an asset performs and what's the state of the economy there. Because it's one thing we're talking about inflation and the overall economy. It's another thing to understand what is demand for apartments, what's going on as far as supply in various markets, what's going on with rents, are rents increasing at what rate, understanding all of those things. And the bottom line is, as an asset class, multifamily is still performing very, very well. It's performing well with renters. Owners, for the most part, still have a lot of leverage, which means that that's a good thing because it means that properties are still performing, and you can find opportunities here and there. But overall, the asset class is doing well. When you compare that to, say, office or retail or some of these other sectors, they're seeing a little bit more of an impact based on these economic changes. So I always come back to, like you said, it's the roots and the foundation. It's the reason we like this asset class. Yep. People need a place to live. we are seeing a shortage of housing. We have a labor shortage as well on top of that. And when you look at it from that standpoint, there's still strong demand for apartments. And that's the reason we're still pretty bullish on it as well. So I just, I break it down that way. I love what you said. And, sometimes we have to understand that the news, television, the media, their job is to get eyeballs and traffic. They're trying to sell ad space and sponsorships. As a guy who was in marketing for 15 years, I'm telling you, the hype, it's what it is. It's hype. There'll be a new crisis. There'll be a new tragedy. There'll be something else tomorrow that will be just as outlandish. And, the moment y'all stop watching it, they'll find something new to scare you with. I'm not trying to say the media is fake or anything like that. What I'm saying is their number one priority is viewership and getting attention. And that is the way they do it. So you also have to cut through the noise and just stick to a great fundamental investing strategy so you can take care of your finances. Maurice, I just want to ask you one more thing on this front. Many people have, adjusted their business. You've now been in business for a few years. Obviously, there's been some growing pains. What's one thing that you've done differently, you've learned over the last maybe 12 to 24 months that has allowed you to see more growth in the business itself?
Operational excellence. That is that's a very consultative term. Remember now, I came from 25 years of management consulting, but we're always talking about profit and success in the multifamily industry coming from raising rents, where what we can also do, and that's true, but that impacts my residents, right? Like, I'm not here to gouge residents. I'm here to give them affordable housing that's fair, but renovated, better quality of life. But what we can do and what we have done to improve is we have scaled our internal operations with the nationwide property manager. They grow with us. All of our systems are interlinked with each other. We have economies of scale in every city that we are together. And if we don't have economies of scale, case in point was Huntsville, Alabama. We acquired 200 there earlier this year. Our property manager was not in the area. So in October of last year, Quattro internally bought a 20 unit. Internally, just for us, the managing partners bought a 20 unit. You know why we did that? One, we'll keep it forever for cash flow because I'm a big cash flow person. But two was to get my property manager on the ground 4 months early before buying the large scale one, just so we can employ the same systems, find the right contractors, et cetera, et cetera. They are with us everywhere. The biggest thing that your syndicators could do is make sure, and it's not always there, but make sure that your property manager has program management ability. Managing all of the renovations, the turnover, the keeping the vacancy time down. That is a program management capability. Lean Six Sigma to the hilt, right? So our property manager is extremely good at that. We've integrated our systems. We've automated quite a bit. We have reporting that was homegrown to match what our investors require. And I'll give you an output of it. The River Hills complex that we have in Chattanooga, Tennessee, within 3 months, we got operational expenses down $200 a unit a month. It was like a $4 or $5 million increase in value just by squeezing out inefficiency. That's how we've gotten good. And that's the secret sauce. You raise rent, that's fine. If you can get operational excellence into your business, the value of your properties will skyrocket because you are not impacting the residents. In fact, you're giving them better outcomes, better services. So that's been the improvement that I have seen over the last 12 to 24 months, where we have shifted and really focused on, let's work on the business, not just in the business on a day-to-day basis.
Maurice, I absolutely love it. For folks who want to learn more about you, connecting with you, or maybe learning more about Quattro, what is the best way for them to get in touch?
Well, we'll stay on Quattro. Quattro is Quattro Capital. The website is The Quattro Way, QUATTROWAY, thequattroway.com. And you can catch me there. And John alluded to it. We are Add Value Syndicators. We call ourselves an alternative investment firm. We do, of course, focus on multifamily, but we do other things too. We've done land. I'm testing overseas investment right now, etc. So you can catch me there. I'm very active on LinkedIn, as you know. So it's just Maurice Philogene on LinkedIn, talking heavily about lifestyle design, those freedom principles, showing people how I exited the W-2 and live life on my own terms. And then Instagram is Maurice Philogene as well, where I'm doing it in visual pictures. And I love to talk to everybody, so I hope folks reach out to me.
Love it. Maurice, let's go to our round of insights. Give me a failure or an apparent failure that set you up for later success.
Yeah, 2007, I was buying condos at the time. Condos was my mechanism towards freedom, but I made a mistake, a heavy one. The mistake that I made was that I chased money. When you chase money, you'll eventually fail. So the way that I chased money is I walked into the development office of this developer and I said, look, I have the money. I'm not going to wait in line to buy this penthouse condo. I just want it. But I didn't want the penthouse condo because it was the right deal. I wanted the penthouse condo to be able to say I owned a penthouse condo in the middle of the city. I paid a heavy price for that because the market turned 2 years later. I survived it, but the lesson of it was that I was chasing something other than the actual financial or life-related outcome. I was just chasing status, and that got me in trouble. I have never done that again, and that's why I mentioned to you earlier, when people are chasing money, I actually get away from that altogether. There's got to be a purpose-driven mechanism by which we're doing business. So that was one of the mistakes I made that has always stuck with me.
Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Oh, 3. I'm going to do it because it's worth it. Earth Class Mail, digitize your mail. It allows me to get up. I get 900 pieces of mail a month between business and personal, but it all comes in online. I look at mail once a month. So that's Earth Class Mail. Slack, huge. Quattro runs, we use Slack for communication on all of our projects, all of our asset management, etc. In my other non-Quattro business, I'm building developments, real estate developments overseas. We're all on Slack channels there. We have a financial channel, corporate legal channel. My lawyers are in the corporate legal channel. You know what that does? It gives me time freedom, one of those principles, because I don't want to have an hour meeting every week. Put all the information in the Slack channels and I'll get to it. And then if we have to have a 5-minute meeting, then we can do it. And then the last one I would say is Loom. Just because Loom allows you and I to have a conversation with each other. It embeds your video on top of a document. You can explain what's going on. Again, time freedom. Forget all these meetings where we're sitting in a meeting inefficiently talking about something for 45 minutes. We can do it in a Loom video, send it by email, see it for 2 minutes, comment on it, and we're done in 10 minutes. So that's some of the tools that I use in and outside of Quattro.
Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
Man, it's always the 4-Hour Workweek. It's always that book because it's a lifestyle design related book. Tim Ferriss was not talking about working 4 hours a week. What he was talking about was optimizing how you do business or how you create a lifestyle related business so we could access life and planet as intended. I love Quattro, don't get me wrong, but the Quattro business blueprint came from my personal blueprint, which is where I wanted to work, when I wanted to work, how I wanted to work. I want no brick and mortar, no employees, no titles, no promotions. So I built Quattro related to that. That was my personal blueprint, which matched how I wanted to live. I kind of got a lot of those ideas on having the ability to live my perfect day every day. Not every day is perfect, but having the framework to do it is possible. And I got most of it from reading the 4-Hour Workweek over and over and over again.
What's a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals?
4 a.m. That's my daily habit. And it came from military days, but even today I'm back on my fitness grind. I was running by 3:58 a.m. So it's always been 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. for me. And I know that's not feasible for everyone, but you can create a lot of time by getting up at 4 or staying up late or whatever it is. So here's the thing. For me, it was 4 to 8 a.m. That's 4 hours a day, 20 hours a week, 80 hours a month, 960 hours a year. That's an extra 5.14 weeks a year. Oh, but you have no time. Yeah, you do. You lack commitment. If you add one more 4-hour session on a Saturday and a Sunday, now we're talking about an extra 2 months. Excuse me, just one more 4-hour session. We're talking about an extra 2 months of time. I'm still that way. And I'm not talking about for building Quattro or for making billions and millions. No, for really attacking things when there's no other distractions around. I can get Pareto's law, right? I can get the 20% of things done before people wake up that give me 80% of the results, so I'm not going crazy during the day. So that's a tactic that has stuck with me over the past 2 decades.
Give me your number one insight for building relationships.
With it. What's in it for them? Every time I talk to someone, that's what comes to my mind. What is in it for them? What can you do for them? How can you help that person? What do you know about them? Did you do research on them? You don't even know how you can help someone if you don't know a little bit about what they've got going on. The more this is a really important one, man. You just have to just help people. Just help people. And more will come back around, or the right things will happen, or you'll just have a sense of joy. The more I help people, or the more I do things for people, the more joy I seem to have. So building relationships has not come from taking from people. It has come from constantly wanting to help people in some way, whether it was me being a street cop or me being in the military or me doing Quattro and wanting to do right by investors or residents. I've never really had the mindset of give me anything. And for some reason that seems to, I have built many meaningful relationships around the world where I could go to 30 countries today, and in all of those countries, somebody would pick me up at the airport. Somebody.
I love it, man. I love it.
So, yeah, that's my tactic.
We're going to switch the mood up here. You've traveled a lot, so I'll let you pick the location. So pick a city. Tell me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Oh, man. That would have to be, That would have to be Izmir, Turkey still. When I was a federal agent, I ran a field office in Izmir, Turkey, which is on the western Turkish coast. In that city, there's something called the Kordon, Kordon. Essentially, the Aegean Sea butts into the seawall. You can put your hand right in the Aegean Sea. There's all these restaurants up and down where you're just looking at the mountains and the Aegean Sea and seeing Greece way over. The food on the Kordon, if you get the right fish restaurant with a Turkish drink called raki, it's like, man, I can't explain it. I mean, I love it so much that there have been weekends I've been in DC over the past 7 years where I've left DC on a Wednesday night and come back on a Sunday night just to go to the Kordon and eat food. That's how good it is. Yeah.
We'll definitely make sure we link to that. Sounds like a great place to check out. Maurice, listen, man, I knew it was going to be a great conversation. You certainly did not disappoint. We talked about kind of your journey going from corporate America, overseeing those single family portfolios for that long period of time, switching over into multifamily, taking a leap of faith, developing a relationship with your partner, donating that first $5,000, sponsoring that first deal, and building out Quattro to now overseeing, 26 different deals that you all have done, and really kind of your philosophy on building relationships, focusing on relationships, not necessarily raising capital. And then you call it the WIFT it, what's in it for them approach. That mindset is just key. Again, for folks who want to learn more about you, give us or check out the website for Quattro. Give us that information one more time.
Yeah, it's the Quattro Way, Quattro, 2 T's, QuattroWay.com. And then check me out on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'm most active on LinkedIn. So it's just Maurice Philogene on LinkedIn. Send me a DM. It takes me time to get through the DMs nowadays, but I respond to everybody. I love this stuff. I love being part of people's journey. So if folks want to reach out, reach out.
Maurice, thanks again for coming on Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you. Hope you have a good one. Take care, man.
Pleasure, man.